Let's talk about what the cops are doing. We got this story from timcast.com. Police seize fuel and supplies from protesters in Ottawa Freedom Convoy. Multiple vehicles and fuel have been seized, police said, as they extend their efforts to end the Freedom Convoy. Basically, they're now saying anybody who brings in fuel is going to be aiding them. It's illegal. Anybody who provides material support. And there's even an insinuation by Trudeau that Americans are interfering and they want to look into where this funding is coming from. Well, I don't know what Canada is going to be able to do to an American who gave $5 on Give, Send, Go. I just don't see them pulling anything off. But yo, how insane is this getting? They declared a state of emergency in Ottawa. You know, I saw a story, I don't know if it's true, that Ottawa cops are exempt from the vaccine mandates. This is how they play the game. The enforcers get special access. It's like the Hunger Games, man.
Wow.
Yeah. No, nothing to say. No one.
Oh, geez, so much to say. How do
It's a
I
lot
even
to take-
start
lot
to
to take in.
formulate?
Take it all
sometimes
in,
every
yeah.
now and
Now
again, it's
everyone
kinda like,
talks the same.
every now and again, it's kind of like a Mexican standoff here. We're looking around, who's going to say something
I know.
first? I don't
This
want
is
to
the thing
interrupt.
about
I don't wanna
how do you talk
over
about
somebody.
civil disobedience? Like, okay, what they're doing is civilly illegal, probably illegal. What the hell does that even mean? Illegal.
Well,
Like,
what was crazy to me was seeing like the brand account for the Ottawa Police Department like cheering on GoFundMe's decision to take this money away from the truckers. You have like this unholy alliance of like the government, law enforcement, big corporations, and then you have this like you have these who are just like taking away the rights of working class people. And we complain about a lot about that in America, but man, like it's crazy.
Yeah,
like the Ottawa police
is it-
just cheering this on.
Isn't there a word for that when the government and big corporations
It starts with the
are
the
working
letter
together
F,
to control
yeah, there's a word. Yeah,
something like
fascism.
that.
Something
weird,
like
yeah,
fascism.
yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like
The
that.
F word.
The F word. Yeah. I think you're thinking about the F word.
Yeah, so earlier you mentioned how Canadian media is basically controlled by the government. One thing I find very disturbing is that with the United States media, we do have media which is controlled by private corporations, but honestly, can you imagine it acting all that differently if it was controlled and regulated by the government? They continually cheer for bigger government. They insult people and they smear them for calling for more freedom and calling for the restrictions the government imposes upon the average person to end. And when you look at the situation in Canada, like I mentioned, it's clear that our private media is more sympathetic to their state media in Canada and the views that they hold than they are to the views of the actual people of our country or theirs.
Bro, there's no mask anymore. It's funny when
The mask mandate is over.
No, I mean the figurative mask that
Yeah.
we ever assumed the media was on our side. I'm done having that conversation. It's been 10 years. Anybody who still thinks the media is telling the truth is probably lying to you, to be completely honest. Like, even regular people, when you ask them, like, the press rates abysmally low in terms of credibility. There was this funny poll from a few years ago, and it was like, who do you trust? Like, how much trust do you give these institutions? And the press was on the bottom at like 17%.
When what's his name, Glenn Greenwald got booted out of The Intercept, that was a big like red light for me. That it's that structure of that old media thing doesn't work anymore. You can't be honest in that situation because there's too many corporate donors trying to get a hold of you and your money.
Yeah, and yeah, so like it's not even that just that they're biased to one side of the political aisle. They're beholden to corporate interests. A lot of these media outlets, and a lot of the time, obviously, as we said before, there's this unholy alliance between government in America and big corporations, and the media is a part of that. You have like an institution like the Washington Post that's owned by the second richest man in the world.
Yeah.
And obviously their coverage is going to not reflect the views of people in working class people in Ohio or working class truckers speaking out against these mandates. They support all these things.
You know how I see it? I'm like thinking about the media, and it reminds me of those movie tropes where it's like there's a wife and then her husband runs up and she has a gun and he's like, honey, it's me, put down the gun. And then all of a sudden another like clone of her husband runs up the other side. He's like, no, I'm your real husband. And she's like, I don't know which one is real. I don't know where that trope came from, like the original movie, but it feels like there's like a normie regular American sitting on their couch and we run in and we're like, we're telling you the truth. We're challenging the lies. And then, Brian Salter runs in and he goes, don't listen to them. We're the truth. They're telling you lies.
That's exactly
Because
how it
I
works.
feel sorry for you. It's true, and I think it's funny because for years and years, right after Trump was elected, the narrative was, everything was fine. People trusted the media. We had a great relationship with the public, and then old DT came along and made him hate us with all of his rhetoric about how bad the media is.
it
It's
was
like,
before.
well, no, you guys were already pretty terrible, and mostly politicians were willing to bend the knee to you, and then one came around who wasn't, and it opened your eyes to how unpopular you are, because the reason most people, or at the very least many people, were cheering for Donald Trump was because you hated him and he hated you, and that meant that he was more on your side than theirs. And I just love to see their narrative crumble with each turn. You're sort of talking about how Canada is much more authoritarian than the U.S., but the fact that the people of that country have formed literally the largest convoy that we have ever been aware of in human history to protest their government's mandates is really incredible. It's a giant white pill.